beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Colin Naismith.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I firstly want to place on record my thanks for the opportunity to address this House on an issue I think it's fair to say I've not been a stranger on. I wanted to speak today to recognise the importance of Crewe railway station, not just to my constituents in Crewe and Nantwich, but to the entirety of Cheshire East, the north west of England, and in fact to the nation as a whole. Crewe train station has been a linchpin of the UK rail network. It is one of the only train stations in the country that provides 360-degree connectivity that is unparalleled in its scope and criticality to the region. The station has 12 platforms, over 3 million passengers pass through annually, and over 2,000 trains use the station each week. It is incredible when you look at the connections and destinations that you can travel to from Crewe. Passengers can directly travel to Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, London, Cardiff, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and countless other destinations.
Will you give way?
I will.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. One destination that you cannot currently get to from Crewe is Middlewich, in my constituency. Middlewich is about 8.5 miles from Crewe, has a population that's increased by 1,000 over the last 10 years. It now stands at around 14,500. Indeed, it's the largest town in Cheshire without a railway station. Does he agree with me that as Network Rail review and renew the infrastructure around Crewe, that provision needs to be made for additional capacity for future services such as to Middlewich?
I completely agree with my honourable friend, and he makes a really strong case for his constituents in Middlewich. And I think it's fair to say that the
Order.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
Colin Naismith.
I think it's fair to say that the opportunities that opening the station at Middlewich would present to the country and to Cheshire are really, really exciting. So Crewe Station is a genuine strategic asset for both local and national infrastructure. Yes.
Commend the Honourable Gentleman for Crewe and Nottingham for bringing this forward. Does the Honourable Member not agree that in order to meet carbon targets, connectivity is essential, and the need for rail is an integral part of that plan, and subsequently upgrades to existing stations and indeed frequent bus links to rail stations, and that all must be part of the net zero conversation?
I thank the honourable member for his intervention. In fact, it wouldn't be an adjournment debate in this place without an intervention from the honourable gentleman. And he is absolutely correct. He is absolutely correct. And I will go on to say a little bit more about the importance of rail to our climate objectives later on. The significance of Crewe train station goes beyond its enormous benefit to the rail network. It provides and has provided in its lifetime critical economic benefits.
Will my honourable friend give way?
Two at the same time. I'll take my honourable friend first and then.
Thank you. My honourable friend often shares that wait at Euston Station, waiting for the screen to turn from blue to green when getting on that train to Crewe, which also stops in my constituency in Atherstone. Also, my constituents in North Warwickshire and Bedworth have had to bear the brunt of most of the works around digging of the tunnel through from Birmingham to link HS2 to the north. Would he agree with me that linking that HS2 network all the way to Crewe is essential for opening up economic prosperity to that area and will make that heartache worthwhile for my constituents?
My honourable friend will not be surprised to hear that I completely agree that connecting the phase 1 of HS2 up to Crewe is crucial if we are to see the real economic benefits of that project, and I will take my honourable friend.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Honourable Member for giving way and for securing this adjournment debate. He's speaking very well on this important topic. We are, of course, constituency neighbours, and whilst Crewe Station is in his constituency, it provides vital transport links and an important boost to the local economy for many people living in my constituency. Does he agree with me that Crewe Station is in urgent need of upgrades, and that in light of the cancellation of HS2 and Phase 2, and assuming that's happening, we have an opportunity to improve existing infrastructure, such as electrifying the track between Crewe and Chester, that would do so much to benefit my constituents and pave the way for the reopening of Tarpley and Beeston Railway Station?
I thank the Honourable Member for that intervention, and particularly the opportunity to work on a cross-party basis on this across Cheshire and the wider area to secure key benefits for our constituents. And she's absolutely right to say that electrification of the line from Crewe to Chester would be transformative. It would potentially deliver an additional £25 billion in gross value added and create over 70,000 jobs over the next 20 years. So really, really crucial benefits.
Will my honourable friend give way?
I will.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. I have the pleasure of being the constituency neighbour both of the honourable lady from Chester House and Edinburgh, and indeed my friend from Crewe and Nantwich. And he's touched on the communities who benefit from Crewe Station: Madeley, Audley, Betley. Many of my constituents in Newcastle and Lyme use Crewe on a daily basis. Indeed, when Avanti chooses to mess up its timetable, I have to go to Crewe when I'm going home. But I wonder whether, as he's touched on HS2, he agrees with me that rebuilding trust is going to be really important here. Many of my constituents in Newcastle and Lyme, as in Stoke-on-Trent South, have been faced the brunt of the failures of HS2 to date. Many people have waited many, many years for compensation. And so as we look to have this conversation, trust and restoring trust must be at its heart.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and he is absolutely right to point out some of the negative impacts of the HS2 project on his constituents and indeed to some of my constituents. It is right that this government has taken the necessary steps to get that mismanagement of the project under control, and it is right that it continues to do that and fully engage with those negatively impacted so far.
Would my right honourable friend give way?
Yes.
Thank you. Stoke-on-Trent, as my honourable friend knows, sits on an offshoot of the West Coast Main Line. It also provides a vital east-west link between Crewe through to Derby, which also requires electrification. Would my honourable friend agree with me that previous HS2 plans severely reduced services through Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent, and that any future developments must not negatively impact this vital region for growth?
Yeah.
So I think my honourable friend makes a really important point, and that's why it's really crucial that those of us who are impacted by HS2 and the discussion around improved rail infrastructure in the future work together to get the best possible alternative plan on the table and being looked at. So I'm going to make some progress. Within my constituency, Crewe Station has strong ties to engineering and advanced manufacturing firms like Bentley and Alstom in Crewe. In the surrounding regions, many businesses actually exist because of the opportunities that Crewe Railway Station provides, enabling supply chains, employment opportunities that would otherwise be out of reach, and ensuring the growth of local businesses. Crewe Railway Station serves as a vital node along the West Coast Main Line, which connects London to the Midlands, the North West and to Scotland. Approximately 75% of all freight trains that use the West Coast Main Line pass through Crewe. Again, testament to the paramount nature of the station. However, while I speak openly here about the amazing things that Crewe Station offers to transport connectivity and our economy across the country, it is clear to both residents and experts that it faces significant challenges. The catchment area around Crewe Station is seeing rapid growth because of its connectivity to major economic centres in the UK.
On that point, will my honourable friend give way? Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Residents in my constituency in Alsager, Holmes Chapel and Sandbach and the surrounding villages all either drive directly to Crewe or take trains and then transfer there. Does my honourable friend agree with me that what my constituents want, like his, is more reliable journeys through an improved station and, moreover, the economic growth that could be brought to both the passengers and others from having better transport links?
I thank the honourable member, who is quite correct, and don't let anybody tell honourable members that I have secured this debate tonight in narrow constituency interest. The fact that Crewe is such a central hub for connectivity means that better connections from Crewe station means better connections for people living in Sandbach, Holmes Chapel, Alsager and others, since they are largely travelling via Crewe for major journeys. Indeed, Newcastle-under-Lyme as well. But in terms of Crewe station, the challenges are significant because we are seeing that growth in population due to Crewe stations linked to those major economic centres. Its platforms are too few and too narrow to cope with projected future demand. On top of this, the entrances have limited space and there are often leaks in the roof which do not cover the entire platform. And indeed, we saw an example of this on social media just before Christmas, where one of the roofs caved in and there was water pouring through the ceiling that the staff had to collect in buckets. Now, while Crewe rightly boasts its position as a rail hub, the condition of the station is frankly ill-befitting as a front door for a town with such a rich rail heritage.
Give way. Thank the honourable member for giving way. He's been extremely generous with allowing us all to make interventions tonight. He's been making an excellent point about the state of Crewe station. I've spoken to business leaders who've been considering investing in Cheshire and have frankly been put off by the sheer dilapidation of this station. And would he agree with me that we can, given that HS2 appears to not be coming to Cheshire, not be coming to Crewe, that we cannot wait for projects like this before we invest in this station and bring it up to a 21st century standard?
I agree with the honourable gentleman, and when I describe the station as the front door to Crewe, it is also the shop window for investment due to the rail heritage that we have in the town. So it is important that we use the station as an advert for jobs and investment across the town and across the wider region. Whether or not HS2 ultimately comes to Crewe, that will be an important issue. Now, Crewe station, the ability of Crewe station to act as a critical transport hub has been constrained by the challenges that I've described. And even Network Rail themselves have identified the need to improve platform capacity and length to accommodate modern stock, address concerns around accessibility and integration with other modes of transport. The changes that Crewe station needs to function effectively also limits capacity on the West Coast Main Line. So the limitations on Crewe station have a cascading effect on the entire rail network, reducing reliability and increasing journey times. Now, the plans for HS2 would have seen Crewe form a central cog in Phase 2A, connecting high-speed rail in Birmingham to the wider network as a key interchange. Projections suggested that doing so could support the creation of 100,000 jobs and provide billions to the regional economy in the short term, not to mention the logistical benefits for rail operators. Now, it's no secret that it's my view the last government, as they did in so many areas, botched the job. This left many communities across the north of England, and perhaps none more so than the one I am proud to represent, demoralised and disillusioned that they had been left behind once again. The decision by the last government has also meant that the modernisation of Crewe station has been put on hold, which raises even more questions about its future. But it's not just Crewe station. It's the rail infrastructure in our country that unfortunately is not up to standard, and that will only be exacerbated as time ticks on without crucial investment. I am thankful to Network Rail, alongside Siemens, who recently completed a £190 million overhaul of signalling around the station for the benefit of the wider West Coast Main Line over the Christmas period. However, I truly believe that there is a need to go further, and should they not commit to HS2, and the phase 2 of HS2, then at least the government should consider the many outstanding alternatives that organisations have put forward and the position of Crewe within those plans. Projects like Growth Track 360 and the Midlands North West Rail Link in particular. They are two vital pieces of work that both recognise the need to invest in our railways for growth across the region, but also feature Crewe as an integral part in both their proposals. Investing in rail goes beyond the economic benefits, though, despite their substantial nature. It is also about addressing the climate crisis, ensuring that we get cars and HGVs off the road and that modern electrified rail lines create a transport system that is fit for the future. In 2022-23, rail contributed to 1.3% of UK's total emissions from transport, but a proportionately overwhelming 9% of all passenger kilometres travelled. Furthermore, a journey from London to Glasgow by train uses less than a third of the kilograms of CO2 than petrol cars, and around a sixth less than the equivalent plane journey. Transport in total accounts for 27% of all greenhouse gas emissions, the largest in our society, and shifting journeys from road to rail can play a crucial role in the government meeting its climate targets. Rail travel is one of the most sustainable forms of transport, and by investing in Crewe, we can invest in the electrification of the line and a green future for local transport. Now, in closing, Madam Deputy Speaker, I again wanted to thank the House for listening to my speech and hearing me sing the praises of my constituency's rail heritage. I offer my apologies for bending the Minister's ear once again on this subject.
Keep going.
But I truly believe that transport, particularly rail, will be a central part of any effort to boost economic growth in the north. And in that, I am certain that my constituency is ready and waiting to play an active role. I firmly believe that Crewe Station is a national treasure, and despite short-term constraints on public finances, which are absolutely clear and which I fully appreciate, I hope that ministers see that too. I gently urge the government to recognise how critical this station could be for future infrastructure projects and alternatives to the northern leg of HS2, which can bring vast benefits to regional economic growth and improvements to both rail connectivity and infrastructure. The government must take decisive action to secure the future of rail in our country. Crewe Station has been the beating heart of our rail network for almost 200 years now, and I ask the Minister to ensure that that remains the case.
Minister, Lilian Greenwood.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to begin by congratulating my honourable friend on securing this debate and thank him for continuing to raise the importance of Crewe as a railway station. He never needs to apologise for his advocacy, because he's right that it is and will remain a vital component of the rail network. After all, it was the opening of the railway station in 1837 that led Crewe to develop from a small settlement to the proud railway town that it is today. And he's clearly not alone in recognising the importance of Crewe railway station. I welcome the contributions from a range of honourable members for Mid-Cheshire, for Congleton, for Stoke South, Newcastle-under-Lyme, Chester South and Edisbury, North Warwickshire and Bedworth, and of course not to forget the honourable member for Strangford. Now, as my honourable friend set out, and other members have confirmed, Crewe Station is now a crucial transport hub, providing that 360-degree connectivity where 4 regional lines converge with the West Coast Main Line. These provide long-distance links to London and Scotland, the great cities of the Midlands and the North, as well as more local and regional links. I will, of course, give way.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Minister. I want to take a moment to raise the issues around Sandbach Station. There is no accessibility on Sandbach Station, a station that serves approximately 20,000 people, and the only route to Manchester is therefore for Sandbach residents to take the train to Crewe, where they can change accessibly there, assuming everything's working, and then take a train back to Manchester. Does she agree with me that this needs addressing?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and she's absolutely right to advocate for more accessible journeys on the rail network. We want everyone to be able to travel on our railways, and I'm sure that my officials will have heard those comments, and I will of course convey them to the noble Lord Hendy, who is the rail minister, and I'm sure he will want to look at that. Crewe's location is strategically important to the railway thanks to the connectivity it provides for passenger, freight and engineering services. No other UK station is served by more individual train operators, and with over 470 services on a typical weekday, there are just 30 minutes between the last train of the evening and the first of the following morning. So I lead HS2 between Birmingham and London at the lowest reasonable cost. However, while we have been clear that we cannot reverse the previous government's decision to cancel Phase 2 of HS2, we do recognise concerns about rail capacity and connectivity between Birmingham and Manchester. And we're considering a range of potential solutions that will have to be carefully balanced with the very difficult fiscal context under which we are operating. Now, this could include optimising services, delivering smaller scale infrastructure interventions, or the proposal set out by the mayors of Greater Manchester and of the West Midlands for a new railway line between Birmingham and Manchester. I can give way very briefly.
I'm very grateful to the Minister for giving way. Can I urge her, as she seeks to consider the options, looking at capacity, to make sure that engagement and real meaningful engagement with the communities that will be impacted, as mine have in Newcastle Lyme and many other parts of North Staffordshire too, because without that real engagement, the trust that we talked about earlier on will simply not be able to be built.
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right to say there needs to be that work to engage local communities is absolutely vital as we develop future transport plans. Now, I commend my honourable friend for Crewe and Nantwich passion in advocating for his constituency and ensuring that any eventual decisions take into account the role and needs of Crewe Station, which plays such a vital role on the West Coast main line. Of course, there are other constituencies that we need to consider too. But those will certainly be on the government's mind as we consider different options. And I know that my colleague, the Rail Minister, had a very constructive meeting with mayors at the end of last year, and that he also met my honourable friend to discuss Crewe's role within these proposals.
Will the Minister give
and
way?
I will give way briefly. Yes.
Thank you. Does the Minister agree with me that decisiveness is the key to delivering rail services at a reasonable cost, rather than the continual escalation in cost that was a symptom of HS2 under the last government, and that the time to act is now for looking at connectivity between London and Manchester and increasing that capacity all the way along the West Coast main line, because there simply aren't enough trains to carry the passengers that need to travel in those directions.
Yeah. Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right to highlight the need for more capacity, and I know that the West Coast main line is particularly constrained. I think what we know from the previous government's approach is that constantly chopping and changing on a project is precisely the way to lead to escalation in costs and delays in delivery, and we do not want to repeat those mistakes. And while there's little I can share at this stage about the future with this House, I can assure all honourable members that we will continue to take their views and those of local leaders into consideration as we develop our plans for the future. And we appreciate that the uncertainty that this period of review places on local residents. It is important that we take the necessary time not only to get this right, but also to learn lessons and ensure that there is no possibility of this government repeating the mistakes that characterised the previous government's plans for major rail investments. Where they failed so miserably, we are determined to finally deliver the benefits that local communities expect. And I can assure all honourable members that this government will not tolerate poor performance on our railways, and we will hold operators to account. Of course, give way.
Very briefly, because the Minister's making an excellent speech, while she's looking at those future connectivity plans, could I make a pitch for her to consider connectivity between Stoke-on-Trent and Manchester Airport with a direct service, which you don't currently have, which business leaders in Staffordshire tell me would be huge for our growth potential?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising that point, and I am sure the Rail Minister will have heard him loud and clear and consider that matter. Now, in the meantime, while we consider the range of proposals that have been drawn to my attention this evening, there is a clear need for interventions at Crewe Station to address ageing assets. The Government has provided Network Rail with £44.1 billion for renewals, operations and maintenance in England and Wales for the period between 2024 and 2029. And in turn, Network Rail has developed a programme of interventions to deliver essential renewals in the Crewe area. And I'm pleased to assure honourable members that this work will include replacement of the station's roof and renewal of power systems, signalling and track assets such as switches and crossings. This is a significant programme amounting to over £270 million, which needed to be rescoped and replanned at pace to follow the previous government's decision to cancel HS2 Phase 2. And as the scope of this work develops, we will collaborate with Network Rail to identify any opportunities for investment above and beyond essential renewals. In parallel, DfT officials are already working with Cheshire East Council on better integration between different transport modes at Crewe, including road and rail. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, let me reiterate that transport is an essential part of this government's mission to rebuild Britain. Crewe has played and will continue to play a central role within our railway network. We will continue to work with honourable members and local leaders and the communities that they represent on making sure that we get delivery of infrastructure projects right. As I have said, I welcome this debate as it's vital that we continue to discuss our transport projects openly and transparently, and I thank all honourable members for their contributions this evening and for their continued contributions as we work to deliver the railway network that our country requires. Thank you.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.